the low hum of a cooling fan. The war didn't start with a bang. It started with a spreadsheet. Sharp, caffeinated, hyper-focused. Wednesday morning, 5 a.m. I was already at my desk. The office was dark, the only light coming from my dual monitors, casting a ghostly blue glow over my face. I had 48 hours of high-stakes auditing to compress into 24. I wasn't just working anymore. I was building a fortress. Every entry I verified, every invoice I reconciled, was a brick in the wall that would protect my Friday. The Flying Monkey Squad arrived at 8 a.m. I didn't look up. I didn't acknowledge the coffee breath or the fake, "Morning, MJ," chirps. She's still here? Did she sleep under her desk? Someone's gunning for a promotion. Or trying to hide a mistake. Let them talk. Olivia was a paper tiger. Georgie was a shadow. They didn't understand that I wasn't playing their game anymore. I was playing Lily's game. Davison walked past my cubicle. He didn't speak. He didn't even look at me. But I could smell the nervous sweat on him from 3 feet away. He was waiting for me to fail. He was praying for a decimal point to slip. But I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. My fingers flew over the keys. Validation, reconcile, export. 12 p.m., no lunch, just a protein bar and a liter of water. 3 p.m., the machine was humming at 200%. My eyes burned, but my mind was a steel trap. 6 p.m., the cleaning crew arrived. The office emptied. By 9 p.m., the silence was absolute. I hit save on the final master file. It was beautiful. It was a masterpiece of logistics. If an auditor breathed on it, it would purr. I stood up, my back popping like a string of firecrackers. I looked at Davison's darkened office door. Thursday is yours, Davison. But Friday? Friday is mine. I pulled my phone out. A picture from Hazel. Lily and Leo were asleep, Lily clutching her project journal like a teddy bear. The 10% battery was gone. I was running on 0%. But as I walked out into the cool Durban night, I felt a strange, terrifying electricity. Tomorrow was audit day, the day of the dragon, and I had the sword ready. Thursday morning didn't crawl in. It slammed into the office like a gavel. The auditors arrived at 9 a.m. sharp. 2 men in charcoal suits with eyes like scanners and briefcases that smelled of ink and old money. They didn't come for small talk. They came for blood. And this is Mary Jane Nkabinde, our lead on the Q3 reconciliation. She's been working very hard. I stood up. I didn't offer a nervous smile. I didn't offer a handshake. I offered the master file. "Gentlemen," I said, my voice steady enough to hold up a building. "The Q3 inventory flow is on page 4. The discrepancy reports are cross-referenced with the shipping manifests from the Hillcrest hub. You'll find that the 2% margin of error your firm predicted doesn't exist. It's 0.04%. 0.04? That's virtually impossible for a logistics firm this size. It is impossible for people who miss decimals. I don't miss decimals." I spent the next 6 hours in that glass box of a boardroom. It was a siege. They threw questions like spears. They dug into the archives. They tried to find the cracks I had spent 48 hours sealing. Every time they looked for a weakness, I handed them a solution. Look at her. She's not even looking at her notes anymore. How does she know the invoice number for the July shipment by heart? She's a machine. A terrifying, beautiful machine. No, Georgie, I wasn't a machine. I was a mother who had a date with a giraffe. And every minute I spent proving my genius to these men was a minute closer to my freedom. By 3 p.m., the senior auditor closed his laptop. He looked at Davison. "Davison, you're lucky. This is the cleanest set of books I've seen in a decade. We don't even need the second day for reconciliation. We can wrap the board report by 5 p.m. today." I looked at Davison. His jaw was hanging open. He had expected me to struggle. He had expected to spend Friday fixing my mistakes so he could look like the hero. Instead, I had rendered him obsolete 24 hours early. "The dragon is dead, sir, and my work is done." I walked out of that boardroom. I didn't look at the flying monkey squad. I didn't look at the clock. I walked straight to my cubicle, grabbed my bag, and for the first time in 5 years, I left at 4 p.m. As the doors closed, I saw Davison standing by the glass, his face a mask of pure, confused defeat. He had tried to cage the lioness, and all he did was teach her how to hunt. The room is quiet, bathed in moonlight. The adrenaline was gone. The fire of the boardroom had cooled into a dull ache in my joints. I sat on the edge of Lily's bed, watching the slow rise and fall of her shoulders. They are the only ones, the only people in this world I never have to hide from. No masks, no royal decrees, no machine. To them, I'm just Mommy. And they love me unconditionally, even when my battery's at 1%. I looked at their small hands, tucked under their chins, and a familiar, cold weight settled in my stomach. I have to get rich for them. Not for the shoes or the status, but for the safety. Because I know what it looks like when the floor falls out from under you. My mother, she was a warning, not a guide. My grandmother used to say the city corrupted her. She forgot the hymns, forgot the church pews, forgot the morals she was raised with. She traded us for a life of sin, for bottles that never stayed full, and for 3 different men who only knew how to use their fists or their bottles. I vowed I would never be like her. I stayed sober. I stayed present. I stayed in the church of my own hard work. But sometimes, in the dark, I feel her ghost. I look at my life and I wonder if the corruption is just a different kind now. I don't drink, but I chose Lucas. I gave 10 years to a man who looked at my heart and saw convenience. 10 years begging for the bare minimum, like a beggar at a feast that wasn't even for me. I ended up so pathetic in that relationship. A queen who spent a decade asking permission to be loved. But as I looked at Lily's project journal on the nightstand, I felt a new kind of vow take root. My mother abandoned us for the city. Lucas abandoned us for his own ego. But I'm going to use this city. I'm going to conquer this logistics kingdom. Because these children deserve the best life, and I am the only one who can build the palace they live in. No more begging. No more masks. Just us. No sound of a blaring alarm clock, just the soft rustle of clean sheets. For the first time in 5 years, the sun didn't feel like a spotlight in an interrogation room. It felt like a greeting. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., not because a digital beep commanded me to, but because my body realized it was finally safe to breathe. I lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, waiting for the familiar heavy rock of office anxiety to settle on my chest. It never came. I didn't rush. I didn't scramble for a blazer or check my email for urgent screams from Davison. Today, the only logistics that mattered were juice boxes and sunblock. "Mommy, you're awake! And you're still in your pajamas." Leo's voice was a mix of shock and delight. "I am. And I'm staying in them until the very last second. Who's ready for the lions?" Watching them eat breakfast, I felt a surge of that millionaire identity I'd been tapping for. It wasn't about the money in the bank yet. It was about the sovereignty. I had decreed this day into existence. I had outworked the machine and outmaneuvered the coward. I looked at my phone. One notification. A message from the Flying Monkey group chat. Audit wrap-up starting now. MJ, where are the Hub 4 logs? I didn't reply. I didn't even feel a sting of guilt. I just swiped left and deleted the notification. The logs were exactly where I said they'd be. And if Davison couldn't find them, that was a him problem. I traded my machine mask for a pair of oversized sunglasses and a sun hat. I looked in the mirror, and for the first time, I didn't see the tired girl begging Lucas for crumbs. I didn't see the daughter of a ghost. I saw a woman who had saved her own life. "Buckle up, tornadoes," I called out, catching Lily's eye in the rearview mirror. She was holding her project journal, but she was smiling. A real kid smile. "The Queen is taking you to the zoo." The zoo was humid, smelling of damp earth and popcorn, but to me, it felt like the grounds of a palace. I watched Lily. She wasn't just a child at the zoo. She was a scientist in the field. She stood in front of the chimpanzee enclosure, her brow furrowed in concentration, scribbling notes into her journal about social hierarchies and grooming patterns. I realized then that she wasn't just like me because she was organized. She was like me because she understood that knowledge was a weapon. "Mommy, look at the alpha. He doesn't have to growl to make the others move. He just stands there. Everyone knows he's in charge." That's true power, Lilybug. It's not about the noise you make. It's about the space you take up. I leaned against the wooden railing, adjusted my sunglasses, and for a moment, I let my mind drift back to the ballroom, to the gold light, to the feeling of a hand on the small of my back. But then a voice broke my trance. It wasn't a child's voice. It was deep, cultured, and carried a weight that made the hair on my arms stand up. The Western Lowland Gorilla. A masterclass in quiet logistics, wouldn't you say? I turned. Standing a few feet away was a man who looked entirely out of place in a dusty zoo. He wore a crisp, cream-colored linen suit, the kind that screamed private jet rather than public commute. He was looking at the enclosure, but his eyes were sharp, intelligent. Logistics? That's a strange word for a Friday morning at the zoo. Is it? Look at how he manages the food distribution, the way he positions himself to protect the perimeter without wasting a single movement. It's the most efficient supply chain in nature. He paused, his gaze lingering on me for a second too long. Not in a way that felt like Georgie's creepy stares, but with the look of a man recognizing a peer. "I'm Julian. I usually spend my Fridays in boardrooms, but my nephew insisted on the primates today. Though, you don't look like someone who spends her Fridays worrying about social hierarchies either. You have the air of someone who has just won a very long war." Julian. Not George. Not Davison. "You have no idea, Julian. I'm Mary Jane. And you're right. The war is over. I'm just here for the victory parade." "Mommy, the giraffes are next. We're behind schedule." Julian laughed, a rich, genuine sound, and stepped back to let us pass. But as I walked away, I felt his eyes on me. Fate wasn't mocking me today. It was introducing itself. The distant rhythmic beat of a ballroom waltz begins to bleed in. Slowly, like a heartbeat. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I kept my eyes on Lily's pigtails and Leo's frantic little hops toward the giraffe enclosure. But I could feel it. The air behind me didn't go cold, it stayed warm. Julian was still there, a pillar of cream linen against the dusty green of the primate kingdom. Incredible. Was he talking about the gorillas? Or the woman who had just discussed quiet power while wearing a sun hat like a crown? I felt the dry branches in my chest, the ones that had been snapping for months under the weight of Davison's ego and Lucas's neglect, suddenly start to bloom. It wasn't just adrenaline anymore. It was the terrifying, beautiful realization that I had stepped out of the logistics machine and into a world where I actually mattered. Julian was a stranger, a man in a suit I couldn't afford, with a voice that sounded like the gold light of my ballroom fantasies. But he wasn't a phantom. He was real. And the way he looked at me, it wasn't the way a boss looks at a clerk. It was the way a king looks at a queen who has finally found her way home. I walked away, my heels finally silent on the zoo's gravel, but my spirit striking a rhythm that the whole city could hear. Thursday was a war. Today was a victory. But tomorrow? Tomorrow? I think I'm done being a ghost in other people's stories. I'm ready to be the main character in mine. Bam! The music stops instantly. The weekend was a sanctuary. No alarms, just the sound of Saturday morning cartoons and the warmth of Leo and Lily curled against my sides. But even in the peace, my mind was a traitor. It kept drifting back to the man in the cream linen suit. On Sunday night, the city of Durban faded away. The smell of popcorn and diesel was replaced by the scent of crushed herbs and ancient stone. I wasn't Mary Jane the clerk anymore. I was Ruby. I was a princess born into a cage of gold. To my father, I was a bridge to a neighboring kingdom. To the court, I was a political tool to be traded for silver and peace. But I had the heart of a wanderer. I wanted to see the edges of the map, not the edges of a wedding veil. I was running, escaping through the servants' gate into the dark forest when the world went black. A slip on the moss, a heavy thud against stone. When I opened my eyes, the crown was gone. So was my name. I was a girl with no past, waking up in a strange land, staring at a sky I didn't recognize. But across the borders, the kingdom was in an uproar. Legend said that Prince Julian was scouring the world for his runaway bride. Not because of the alliance, not because of the gold, but because of a single chance encounter in the royal gardens. He had seen her smile just once. To the world, she was a princess. To him, that smile was the only sun he ever wanted to wake up to. He had rushed to his father, demanding the wedding be moved closer. Not to claim a throne, but to claim the right to see that warmth every single morning for the rest of his life. He was looking for a smile I didn't even remember I had. 6 a.m. The dream was over. The velvet dresses and Julian's warm gaze dissolved back into the shadows of my room. The branches in my heart, which had loosened just enough to let me breathe over the weekend, began to clench, tight, sharp. I dragged myself out of bed, my hands covering my face as if I could hide from the sun itself. Lord, I am not sure where I am getting lost in translation here. Can't you see? I am withering away. This job is a slow leak in my soul. I don't want to be there. I'm broke. I'm single. I've gained weight. And I know I'm the one to blame for most of it. I stood under the water, letting the steam blur the world. Everyone says, find what you love and do it more. But what if I don't know what that is? I don't have hobbies. I don't have passions. I feel lazy, lost, and completely without a purpose. So, since I'm not sure what I want out of my life, fine, just give me a husband then. Give me one who will fund my crazy ideas. Someone who will pay for a Pilates studio that loses money every month just so I have a place to be. Give me a man with a bank balance that makes my purpose irrelevant. Because for a person like me, a person this tired, maybe that's the only life I actually deserve. I looked at my reflection in the fogged-up mirror and wiped a circle in the steam. The queen from the zoo felt 1,000 miles away. All I saw was a girl in Hillcrest, trying to remember how to put on her normal person mask for another 9-hour shift in the trenches. The machine was waiting, and I was out of battery. The sight of Cledwyn's desk, cluttered with half-empty coffee cups and a miniature Zen garden he never used, relaxed me. It was our ritual, the morning update from the home front. It was the only time during the 9 to 5 that I felt like a human being instead of a line of data. I spun my chair, my eyes bright with a creative victory. Cleds, forget the logistics. I had a major breakthrough. I solved a foundational problem. Only a minute, Mary Jane, but you look dangerously close to a creative victory. What is it? My savior husband. He has a name. This is Western royalty, Cleds. A very strong, regal name. Are you ready? Swiveling slowly, eyebrows raised. I am absolutely braced for the inevitable disappointment. Julian. King Julian. Then a loud, explosive burst of laughter. King Julian? You're serious? As in, the lemur? From the cartoon movie? The one who makes everyone dance and insists on being worshipped? No, I don't know the cartoon. The name is strong. It sounds like a venture capitalist. It sounds like wealth. Mary Jane, you are perfect for King Julian. He's completely chaotic. He starts elaborate dramas when things don't go his way, and he insists on everything going his way. And you are the main character in an elaborate drama every day. I scowled, but I couldn't help it. The image of a dancing lemur paying my Pilates studio bills was starting to take root. Fine, but Julian is the one paying the bills, not the lemur. He will pay the bills, Mary Jane, but he will pay them chaotically. Now King Julian's queen needs to stop procrastinating. Go back to your Q3 before Georgie comes back and tries to institute a dance party to boost morale. I chuckled, the heavy gray cloud of my morning prayer successfully chased away by the absurdity of it all. I was refueled. I swiveled back to my screen, the numbers looking a little less like enemies and a little more like a path to my kingdom. The laughter from Cledwyn was still ringing in my ears as I turned back to my monitor. I felt lighter, the Lemur King image acting like a shield against the gray office walls. Maybe Cledwyn was right. Maybe my Julian was just a chaotic fantasy, a dancing lemur in a linen suit. I reached for my mouse, ready to dive back into the shipping manifests for the Hillcrest hub. But then, I saw it. Lying right on top of my keyboard, placed there while I was busy laughing with Cleds, was a high-gloss midnight blue business card. No staples, no paper clips. Just a single card smelling faintly of expensive sandalwood and the crisp air of a private jet. My fingers trembled as I picked it up. This wasn't a logistics firm card. There were no grainy logos of trucks or cranes, just a minimalist gold crest of a lion. And beneath it, in embossed lettering, Julian Vance, Chief Executive Officer, Vance Global Holdings. Vance Global. The king of South African private equity. The man who bought shipping companies like people buy groceries. I flipped the card over. There, in handwritten, elegant ink, were 5 words that made the room spin. For the Queen of Logistics. Cleds? What now, MJ? Did the lemur send you a banana? Cleds. Look at my desk. Cledwyn swiveled. His eyes dropped to the card in my hand. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. He knew that logo. Everyone in the building knew that logo. It was the end boss of the corporate world. Mary Jane, tell me you didn't just manifest the most powerful man in the province into your cubicle while I was making Madagascar jokes. The dry branches in my chest didn't just snap, they ignited. I looked toward Davison's office. He was standing by his window, staring at me with a look of pure, unadulterated terror. He wasn't the manager anymore. He was a ghost. The dream wasn't over. The 6 a.m. prayer hadn't been lost in translation. King Julian didn't bring Maurice. He brought a kingdom. I floated back to my desk. The logistics didn't matter. The port turnaround didn't matter. What mattered was that Julian Vance was a perfect fit for the leading man role. He was tall, stable, and carried that quiet alpha energy Lily had described at the zoo.